Volpo Studios.
It's episode 7. We are flying through these episodes, and once again, I have to say thank you so much for all the feedback that we've been getting. I said it was going to be honest, open-hearted, and really true with the guests that we have on, with the conversations that we have with each other, and that's what we've tried to do, and I hope it's supporting and helping you guys. The excerpt today comes from the acknowledgements again, and today's episode is with a local legend. He is a brilliant broadcaster. He wakes everyone up in the morning in Leicester and Leicestershire, and he's become a real close friend over the years. He's the cheeky chappy. His name is Dayman, and the excerpt is from the back of the book, page 314 and 315. Thanks to those at the BBC, in particular Ian Stringer, Owen Palmer-Atkin, Dale Neal, Jason Bourne, Dayman and Jack Rafferty, who have all been brilliant with their friendship and support over the airwaves. And just like Ada, I went into radio not schooled in it at all. Adi was a landscape gardener who did a little piece every now and again on the radio, but his personality, his energy, his enthusiasm is infectious, and it got him an opportunity to start doing radio more often and to become a broadcaster later on in life. And he's like a duck to water to it. He's one of my favourite people, and here's the episode, everyone. I hope you enjoy it. I want you to say something at this point.
We started now. Are we away? Right. This is it. We're up and running. This is how it goes. Do you know what, Pipes? That was the first thank you I've ever had in a book, and my only one. And I was so genuinely, having known you for however many years that was, and getting your book, and I remember, I ain't going to ask him for a freebie. I ain't going to be that bloke. You got any going then, Pipes, or what?
Did I give you one?
No, you didn't, you tight ass. Straight on Amazon, got one. And I didn't know that you put that in there. And it, for me, being a lad from Glenfield, reading a book is like a really big thing, with no pictures in it, not Biff and Chip or anything like that. and I remember getting to the end and thinking, imagine one day if I got a thank you in a book, and it were there. And I was so chuffed. Do you know what? I must have bought 10 more copies of your book, not because it's so good, because it's got my name in the back of it. Hey, Uncle Gaz, have a read of this. It's got my name in the back. Get to the thank yous.
Handing them out to everyone.
I was so chuffed about that, and having read the book as well. And I remember I was on holiday, and genuinely, I remember tweeting you and sending you WhatsApps and things like, I'll race through it. It's such a rate of knots. Genuinely, I ain't saying that because you're sat across the table from me or anything like that. But I remember being so immersed in it. And I think I know you quite well, but I've got no idea about half the things in that book. And even just to get a little tip of the hat from you for what a brilliant book it is, I was made up with that part. It's proper made up.
It's funny you say that about you think you know him. Mate, my best mate. And some of the stuff that he went through, I have no idea. And I told you, and I kick myself to this day not knowing some of the stuff. And he comes back with, but no one could have sort of stopped me. That's what you're saying, aren't you, all the time?
Yeah.
But as a best mate, I just can't believe that it was all. I just couldn't be there. Do you know what I mean? It was a tough time.
Did you read it though? And then you think to yourself, do you know what? I remember that, but I'd got no idea that's what he was going through.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Just didn't. With what you were doing, Pops, or how you were putting up that front or whatever it might have been. Was that what it's like, Joe? Like you say, like your best mate, you're kicking around with him that morning. And then I know there's a bit about Gilrose, isn't there? When you take yourself off to Gilrose and like...
It's even like sometimes I'm having conversations with him and sort of saying... And he said, I'm doing this, doing that, or we spoke late at night. And I'm like, mate, don't fucking do that, or don't do this, or... Do you know what I mean? And it was just literally like... But I didn't realise to the extent.
Well, there's no one closer. I mean, the closest person on earth to me at that point was my mum. Mm-hmm. She knew everything. Yeah. Everything. And she's probably the only one that knew a lot that can corroborate what was in the book. But then the second person on earth that I'm probably closest to, obviously I've had my kids since and things like that, but is Dan. And the things that you can hide from people that are so close to you. I mean, Dan knew some of it. Dan told me off about a lot of it. You know, when it was going on at the time and you fucking hiding drinks bottles around the house and he's coming in and he's sort of looking for him, and you and Mum are talking behind my back in the house thinking, where's he hid this one, and things like that. So people that are listening, that are going through something like that, I think it would have been really powerful at the time to have just opened up and told the whole truth.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Because it helps just confiding in anyone, doesn't it? Even if you're talking to the dog.
Yeah.
Just bringing it out there, putting it out there, it'll help.
How did that feel, Posh? You know, like when you wrote it down, though, when you think about James, think about Dan, think about your old girl as well. How difficult is that to even write that down and be honest with yourself? Because I think I'd struggle with that. You know, if things go, I'm thinking, oh, you beauty. Damn shit! I don't want people to. Like, how? What's that? That is it? Just like that mindset that will help someone else that you've been through that.
No, not at the time. Genuinely, not at the time. You know, when it happens. I mean, it was a weird time because you know Joe Bruin.
Yeah.
Joe Bruin, who wrote the book. We started the first 2 months, and he was coming around the house. Sonny was fucking ripping his ankles off. He was.
Don't sound like your dog.
He's just attacked Hayley out in the hallway.
Fuck, I don't blame him.
Made friends and he's having a go at me leg. Like, yeah, I thought his Rimmel lipstick had popped out. Like, there we go.
He don't do strangers, mate. And Joe was coming round the house, and Joe was like, what the fuck is going on with this dog, trying to get him off his leg? And you sit down and you start going through things, but then COVID hit. That was when the book came out. So then we started having to do Zoom calls to talk about the book, and that, so it was over a distance. So you're just sort of saying the stuff that happened. My mum was there a lot of the time because she was in my circle at that point through COVID, and she would corroborate the stories and say, yeah, that's how that happened. Because you know, when you're drunk all the time and you're on drugs and you're doing stupid shit, you don't remember a lot of the detail. So Mum would fill Joe in on some of the stuff, and some of the more harrowing bits in the book that were deep and dark, that came from my mum, because I couldn't remember. You know, Joe would take that, he'd write it, and then he'd send it me through. And it's never ever, on my life, it's never affected me talking about it until... And I thought you had done the show, but it wasn't you. It was Owen Palmer-Atkin. It was one of the most embarrassing nights of my life. We did a Memphis, because you've done Memphis shows before. Yeah. We did a Memphis show where it was an evening with Matt Piper. And we were and Wes Morgan was there as the sort of guest of honour, but he was in the audience. And then I was on the stage. So already I was thinking, oh, fucking hell, Big Wes is here. Like, this is going to be, like, don't do anything that's embarrassing. He's one of my heroes from the title-winning season. So I'm thinking, don't do anything embarrassing. Just, you know, keep it simple. Talk about the book. Owen starts asking all these questions. Owen Palmer-Atkin, who's the commentator on BBC Radio Leicester, he starts asking all these questions, and it was so weird because I was just answering them as I normally do, as I did with Joe in the book, and then all of a sudden, I burst into tears talking about it. And it's the first real time it's ever hit me because I always talk about it in the third person. So it don't feel like me. It don't feel like a story. Because now Matt Piper, who I am now, is so far removed from that guy that went through all that shit. It feels like a different person. It don't feel like you.
Different plane.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, when you're talking that shit and suicide and depression and abusing your brother, like this guy right here is probably, other than my kids and Sonny, he's probably
and the post
and Leanne and Leanne. I better get,
and that bloke down Morrison's and sometimes put the yellow stickers on the thing before I get there.
But on a serious note, he's such a lovely human being, and I'm blessed to have him as a brother. I was down his house trying to kick his front door off to get in to get him. I don't know if I put that in the book or not.
No, I don't think you did. But I've got a confession.
Get close to the mic because we can't hear you. We want to hear this.
I've got a confession. I've not read the book.
Have you not?
No.
Oh,
Is that
that's the first I've heard.
is that through choice though, Dan? Is that
that's through choice.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go through it again. Do you know it being written down and go through them bits, the ups, downs. The ups, great, but the downs, I didn't want. I don't want to read it.
How hard is that, watching your brother go through something like that when he wants to commit suicide or when he's like on these drink and drug benders? And
It was big. Because whether he was football or not, is your older brother, you look up to him, hero in my eyes. And I remember saying that to him, and that made me break down, saying, you were my hero, and look what you're doing to yourself. I remember that conversation. We was in Leanne's house back at the old place, weren't we?
Mm.
You probably won't remember because he was out of it. But it was a big time, and I don't want to read it.
You've got to. I'm so
Yeah.
kind to you in that book. I think sometimes between brothers, it don't come across how close you actually are to your brother.
Mm.
There's only 18 months between us, and you know how much I love you. So you've got to read that book, brother.
Mm.
I didn't know. That's a confession to me. I didn't know he hadn't read the book.
yeah, but is that? But like you said, is that because you just don't want to relive it? You have to go through
Yeah.
that, and now you're all right, and now you're completely different.
Just wants to enjoy our
how
friendship
you-
now.
Yeah.
Mm.
But even the football, and you're coming out of that, and then you're thinking, I want to go back, but then your head don't let you.
We spoke about that yesterday.
Yeah, just
Didn't we?
Mm.
When you went back to Mansfield.
Yeah.
And there's a piece Billy did, and the manager there says some lovely words about you, don't he? Do you remember?
Mm.
We were talking about it. But you was like smoking in the car park, not asked. Trying, not really trying.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Trying, but not really.
What's that
trying.
like for you though, Joan? Like Dan was saying there, like that he's like Pipes his best mate as well. Reading that, how difficult is that? Because I read it and I was like, bloody hell, I need to go and see Pipes and give him an hug or something. Like, living through it like you two did. Like, and how was that like for you as his best mate? And then thinking, shit, me, like
You know what? I just read it and then think. I read it and just thought who he is now. Like, he's come through that to what he's doing now, and how he's helping people now. It's quite remarkable, to be honest, I think. And I'm so proud of him. And he's probably never heard me talk to him like this, but I am very proud of him. He is, we say, brother from another mother, and he is. He's always looked after me anyway. But he's fucking blowing smoke up his arse.
We can't do that.
We're supposed to be talking. We're supposed to be talking to you.
I was just about to say, this has turned into a podcast about me.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be about Mr. Adi Dayman.
That's it. He's asking us questions. How do you feel?
He's turned into the
He's fucking
presenter.
back at work, isn't it?
I'm not really interested because I got the book and I was just like, but autobiographies are interesting because that's like the only book that I'll read, like autobiographies,
Yeah.
and you read them and you get an insight into someone else's life, and then you'll say to the missus or something like, oh, you ain't going to believe that. This happened with that person, or this player, whatever it might be. But when you're actually reading someone's life story who's your brother, who's your best mate, I've never thought about it like that. Your mum's there telling you, actually, Pipes, you're fucking off your bunts, mate. Like, your own mum's saying that. I've never thought about it from that way, like coming from that way, from the inner circle almost. You know what I mean?
We talk about it a lot amongst ourselves, and we talk about making yourself vulnerable. And he's made himself very, very, very vulnerable. Easy for me to say vulnerable to get all that out. And I think being vulnerable in some ways, it's a bit of a strength. I think I've spoke about it before. I think you can, if you can, it shows real strength and cojones to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. Because it's not easy.
no, it's not.
It's not easy, and people can cast judgment. They can say all sorts of things, but to make yourself vulnerable shows some real grit. And going back to what you were saying, I'm so proud of him. And my own personal thing is a little bit of a bit of guilt, and that will always be with me. No matter what he says, I will always have that. Unfortunately, but
but you just don't let anyone in at all.
No.
And if someone gives you really good advice, I know over the years, coming away from me, I know over the years I've given some wonderful, and I'm not blowing smoke, I've given some brilliant advice to people that are going through a difficult period. You know, whether it's with their missus, in their relationships, drinking, addiction, and in real time, I'm saying it, and I know it's going in one ear and out the other, because if they're not ready to listen to it, they won't. And that's exactly how I was. I had really good people around me. Look at these two guys. These two guys, my mum, they're all saying such stuff that if it was now, you'd be like, oh my God, this person loves me to death and they really want the best for me. They're giving me really good advice, and you would listen to it. When you're in that state, you are just thinking, shut the fuck up. You are. I'm not just saying this. You're thinking, shut the fuck up. Where's the next spliff? Where's the Valium? Where's the thing? And you're just trying to pay homage to that person in front of you by smiling and nodding and, oh, yeah, I understand. Thank you so much. As soon as they walk out the front door and they think they've made a real difference, you're like, thank fuck they've gone. And then you're looking for the bottle. You're looking for the Valium. You're looking for the weed. You're looking for the cocaine. Whatever it is, and that's why it's so difficult to try and help someone who's in a struggle that at that moment in time don't want the help. That's that's how I would explain it.
100%.
And that's why I always tell James he can never feel guilt, because literally when my best mate is out the door, I'm thinking, thank fuck he's gone. So how can he ever feel guilt over someone who's being like that the other end? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think as well, like, it's not just like what you said there. I think that applies to most people that are in some kind of situation that it's not an easy situation, whether it be debt, whether it be anything, trouble in their marriage. Whenever there's struggle and someone's giving you sound advice, sometimes you do just kind of just go, yeah, like a nodding dog. But in your mind, you're like, just shut the fuck up. You're making it harder for me to fucking deal with. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've had it. I've been there myself where I've in situations, people are saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that. You should go, you should call them, you should call this, and in my head I'm thinking, this is really great advice, but you know what? Just fuck off.
Yeah. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be told. I don't know if that's a pride thing. I haven't got a clue, but I think it happens. I do.
Let me say this. The reason that we've been able to talk like that for the first 19 minutes of the podcast is because we are in broadcasting royalty. No. And someone that hears... No, I'm being serious.
It's when you look to me then, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm like,
No, you wasn't.
I thought you were fucking talking about me.
What you've said... What you've said is been outstanding, and I think that's a brilliant 19 minutes, but none of it was to do with Ada. And the reason why I said we're in broadcasting royalty is because someone who's really good at broadcasting has their finger on the pulse of what the room's saying, knows to just let them talk. No, they do.
Yeah.
And every time, I told you earlier when we was in the kitchen, just before we came into the studio, that I listen to your show every morning on BBC Radio Leicester, and I've got to know you more through that show, I think, and your personality and how good you are at what you do, than any time we've been down the pub, any time we've been together on a wedding, birthdays. We've been together a lot. Through different people that we know. You're a diamond, mate. No, I don't want to go too deep. And I don't want you to go all awkward on me because I'm pouring praise on you, but you're a diamond, mate. And what I'd love to know, one of the first questions that I wanted to ask you was, and I've told the boys, because they've listened to you on the radio as well, but I've told the boys that you started out as a landscape gardener.
Yeah.
And what I'm really interested in is how you made that transition from a landscape gardener to the breakfast show on BBC Radio Leicester, which is the biggest show on the station. What is it? How did that story unravel?
Do you know, it's not... I mean, thanks, Pies, first of all. You know, what a lovely thing to say. So landscaping, family business is a garden centre. So over in Cossington, I've always worked with my dad, always worked with my brother, and from an early age, I never wanted to go uni. I was always all right at school. I was always fine, but I was always going to go weed pulling in college up at Brooksby and go and do my diploma in horticulture. And I would just go and work at a family business, be like my old man, drive a transit van, go and dig holes. When it's raining, I go and drink tea in the office, kind of like, just have a good time. Just not an easy life, because it's not an easy life at all. But I felt like that was the way that it was all mapped out for me, and that was fine. Did that went college, went and got me diploma in horticulture. It was only while I was at Brooksbed there was an open day, and Dave Andrews, who
I know Dave Andrews.
You know Dave,
he used to be my history teacher at Anstey Martin.
See, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
so many people. He taught my dad.
Dave Andrews.
Yeah.
Mr. Andrews.
Mr. Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big on the radio, mate.
Oh, Mr. Andrews.
Yeah.
You didn't go to that school. You didn't go to that school. Calm down.
But he was like, the amount of people that he's a legend. He's and I've got everything
Brilliant
to thank
guy,
him
mate.
for. And he was, like you say, the amount of people that used to come up and say, "Oh yeah, you taught me at Anstey." And he came up and he says to my tutor, "Look, I need someone to come on the radio. There's basically a bit full of shit, can talk all right, be confident, and have a go." So I got kept back, and I was like 21, I guess, 21. The tutor was like, "Look, hey, can you stay back? I've got something to ask you." I was like, "Oh, here we go. What have I done now?" And he said, "What are you doing on Sunday? We'd like you to come into the Radio Leicester and talk about the open day at Brooksby College." So I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'll have a go at that." Yeah, great. So I thought no more of it, and then rocked up. Went on the radio and just talked about Brooksby and how the family business, and how I'm going to be a gardener and a landscaper. And I thought nothing else. I mean, I'm like telling all my mates, like, "You get tuned in, I'm going to be on the radio. Like, this is mad." And from there, I just got a little bit more confident. And I got asked back. Dave said, "Look, we need a student gardener. Will you come on and sit on the gardening panel of Gardeners Question Time?" So I'd go in, I'd turn up, and you could be on it was always on a Thursday night, could be in Colville.
What sort of time scale are we talking about here?
So that happened quite quick after. So I was early 20s. So
okay.
really early 20s then.
So what's that, mid?
So that would be, what would that be?
Early 2000s?
Yeah.
No, you're younger than me.
38 now, so 15
I'm
going back
42.
16, 17 years back now. So it would have
Yeah.
been like, early 2000s, early 2000s. But I just turned up on this Gardener's Question Time, and I'd be there, and Dave would bring me in, and I'd be asked to research some little facts about hanging baskets, or what you should be pruning at this time of the year, or whatever it could be. And that was my bread and butter. That was like, I was good at that. Like, and it was.
Was
it
you
was
nervous?
Great. Oh,
Was you nervous?
Shit in it. Like,
Thank
it was,
God.
it was-
Because I shit it when I'm on the radio.
Yeah.
Not now, because we do what we do now. But when I first got asked, I think it's easier because I know football. Yeah. I love football. I watch every game. I do what I'm doing. And you constantly want to talk about football. So that makes it easier. But when you turn up, I am petrified.
Yeah, gardening is like football to you. I know that even now I could go out there. James, you said, "Right, what should I put in this hedge?" Or, "Dan, how do I get this out of my lawn?" I'd feel confident enough to go, "Right, go and buy that, go and get that from there, sprinkle that on, do that this time of year, whatever it is." And because it's like you say, because of how that is, and that's your expertise almost, or what you think you know a little bit about. And I've always had a gift of a gab. Like, I've always been a bit of a top blagger. Like, even if you go into it with confidence, you'll normally be all right, won't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll find out for you and let you know, Dan, about your moss in your grass. Like, you know what I mean? No one wants to hear that. Yeah, there you go. You say, you need sulphate of iron at this per square metre. And you're like, you just got that top blagging. Like, that's it. But I think it's interesting now doing what I do, and because I still don't think. I still think there'll come a day when someone will come in, one of the bosses, and they'll go, "Right, now, Wade, back to your wheelbarrow and your shoveling, right?" And then I'll think to myself, "Yeah, who'd have thought it'd have lasted this long? Thank you very much. I'll see you later." I'll put me past it. Then even now, because breakfast show, he's the big one. He's the
biggest,
one.
mate.
And you have to deal with some really horrible stories on that. And I like to go down the pub and have a few beers, go down the football at the weekend, go home, spend time with my missus and my little girl and the dog. And then you've got these horrible stories. And I'm always thinking to myself, shimmy, like, right, this is, how do I prepare myself for that? And I not over prepare, but having a team around you, can I say this? Can I ask that? Can I do that? And I think there's like, is it imposter syndrome? I think there's an element of that with it, that I do think that I found myself in this position, never been uni, never studied for it, was presented with an opportunity, never say no to anything, and run with it, and just absolutely run with it. And sometimes you do, especially at work. It was absolutely pissing it down. And I'm looking out my studio, and I'm warm, I've got all my team around me, someone's made me a coffee, I'm looking out and I'm thinking, I wouldn't be getting paid today if I was gardening. There wouldn't be many holes being dug out there. And I don't know if that's because you have that grafting ethic that's like drilled into you, that you know what it's like to struggle, you know what it's like to earn 220 quid a week if you're lucky to get that. There's money in the till, you get paid. If it's rubbish and it's January, we ain't seen anyone. And I think that makes you appreciate just a little bit more. No work on. There's no one coming in, no one's buying no. We ain't got enough money for wages. And I think looking out and you think, God, I'm really lucky because I know if I was landscaping, I won't be doing it. I won't have no time. Like it's miserable out there. So
like at the minute,
exactly that. Yeah, I always like thinking to myself, couldn't do any fencing in this weather. Couldn't do any fencing in this weather. My house would be filled with water already. Like, there'd be no money. There'd no going down the forge this weekend. There'd be no things.
But mate, this is the thing, and this is why I think I've always spoke fondly about you to these two boys, not because of the radio. It's not because of the radio. It's because I feel, honestly, this is the truth. And later on in the podcast, you'll have to remind me because I might forget. But me and Adi knew each other we met the first time years ago, and I was drunk.
Yeah.
You might have been drunk as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But going back to what I was saying, I think there's kind of a kindred spirit. So what I've wrote down I don't normally. All we do on this podcast is have a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's how it started tonight. That's how we like to roll on this podcast. But I wrote down imposter syndrome because I feel I've seen things in you that reminds me of me so much. And when I started BBC Radio Leicester, you think, I can talk about football. Yeah, I'm shit in it and I'm nervous, but I can't say no. And you've said that. So you start it, and then you start to realise football means so much to people, and they start ringing in and phoning in and disagreeing with your opinion, and you're like, I didn't come on here to do all this. I didn't know this was going to be the thing. You know, when you talk about the stories and the news things that you have to cover, and the reason why I wrote down imposter syndrome is because that's how I felt. I felt like an imposter in that arena as soon as I knew that people are holding me to account for certain things that I've said, certain takes and opinions that I've had. And I just thought I was there to just give my opinion and go. And then go down the pub with my mates, have a good time, high five my brother. Like, life is good again. And then all of a sudden you get a Twitter thing through saying what you said on the radio today was absolutely out of order. You didn't mention this, you didn't say that. And I'm like, fucking hell, lads.
Yeah.
I'm only here to try and, give it the best that I can.
Yeah.
I didn't know all this was coming. And I've sort of seen from a distance, I'm trying to say, that with you, I think, because your personality is that cheeky, chappy broadcaster that is everyone's friend. Loads of people come up to me and say, what's that Eddie Dayman like? I say, top lad. Absolute top lad. I knew you'd say that. I tune in the morning because he makes me feel more positive. He makes me feel happy. He makes me feel this. And then all of a sudden, you've got Ukraine war has started.
Yeah.
All this shit's happened. Deal with it. It's like, fucking hell, it's not natural to our personality.
I think that's really interesting because, exactly like you say, I find myself in a position where I've got a job that I love. I've got a team that I love. I get up at knobhead o'clock every morning.
Tell everyone what the. Oh, there you go.
So it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I walk the dog for a mile, get into work, and it don't bother me. Because I go in there and I love it. And I always think, like, the way that in my head it works is like you say, there's so much bad shit that goes on in the world. There's so much bad stuff that happens.
And the breakfast show has to cover it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not like, oh, God, let's not talk about that today. Like,
yeah,
that's
no.
like, all right,
You have to.
But you have to. But I think that is, like, without I don't know how to explain, but being this cheeky chappy from Glenfield, who's the same on the radio as he goes down the forge, or he's down the front wall, when he's had a few sherbets, or whatever it might be, is that it is like having that I always think there's one person that's listening, and I'm thinking, right, you really need to know about this, and this is not very nice whatsoever. However, I've got to tell you about it, and I'm going to tell you about it in my way. So here's what you need to know about this.
Yes.
And it's bad, but I've got to tell you about it. And it's like, you can't shy away from the, whether it's good, it's bad, or whatever it could be, but there is a shit sandwich, and it is the ratio of shit to bread, I always think, of how much is in that sandwich. And never skirt away from the facts, never skirt away from how you got to deliver the story, but doing it in a way that I feel is my own way of doing it makes it better, because you find, look, we need to know about this, I need to know a bit more about this as well, and this is, I feel like that's probably one of my more defining features of broadcaster, of something that is, I'm in this with you, let's find out about it. How's this going to affect us? And try and do it if that makes sense. You know what I'm trying to say?
It does make total sense.
Yeah, it does.
And that's why I think you come across as really genuine, even when you're doing a difficult story. I always think, who I try and take tips off, I don't know if James and Dan have listened to him, but someone that's really, he's been at the BBC for a long time, BBC Radio Leicester, Ben Jackson.
Yeah.
I've heard the name.
So Ben Jackson he's such a good broadcaster, number one. He's not got that cheeky chappy kind of personality, or he couldn't probably pull off what me and you pull off, how we do it, because, on the radio, I'm just the kid from Beaumont Leys. You're the...
Yeah.
But Ben Jackson, when he's talking news or stories, or you're like... I sit up and listen, even in the car, I'm like, oh my word. And what I always think is that there's different kinds of broadcasters, and they've got different skills, but can you cross over when you need to? And my biggest thing for you would be, mate, is that you cross over when you need to. When it's a difficult story, even though you're the cheeky chappy from Glenfield, you cross over, and that's massive, I think.
I think that's one of the main things though as well about, and the same with you though, Pipes. Like, you call it out if things aren't going well, if you see something, is that if you've got this, if your job in the morning is to wake people up, and I'm there, and like I say, I am chuffed, I'm lucky to be there, and I'm sat there. If someone needs hammering, or if someone needs holding to account, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. Even
me and Brendan.
You've got, that's it though, isn't it? Like, because like all of a sudden, if you don't, people will pick up on that quicker than anything else. If you're, bloody hell, give him an easy time. Like, he's just done that, or whatever it could be, or she's just said that. You're clearly mates with him, or you can't hide. You cannot hide. If you're on air, you can't hide from it. You've got to hammer people as well when it needs it.
But do you know what's really difficult is when it is opposite to your nature. That's when it becomes difficult. And you don't want to say it, but you feel like you have to say it.
There's an element of that. I remember going into, if you've got hard interviews, and everything's always talked about at first thing, right, we're going to have to talk about this on the show today. So, right, let's think about what we need to get out of this, because this ain't right, but fair enough, it might have been doing this for that reason, or whatever it could be, but you've got to go at him from this, because you've got to make sure that it's nice and balanced. Is that saying out, and if you sat down like today, you said, what was it, like 19 minutes of the podcast, we were just chatting like four old gaffers. If you sat out and you've got your questions there, and like the first thing is like, right then, Aid, let's talk about this, and then I'll tell you something, and then you're like, right, I need to get that second question in now, and I might have dropped in this little nugget of something, and you've moved on, and you've missed it. Like, so like I'd stop doing that. And like, right, here's 5 questions, ask all them questions, because you hear it even now. Like, you hear people just bouncing, like just reading the question. That's my 5 questions. That'll do. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's it. It's finished. But I think that's where you just like you do so well. Like today, like everyone like is listening, respectful. Everyone's got an opinion on it. Listen to it. Oh, so why did you feel like that then? Like, where's that? And that's probably not where it was going originally. Like, and that's what. it is difficult, but equally, you have got to hammer people. If they need hammering, you've got to hammer them. You've got to have them. Like
you got to get after them,
because you do a lot worse if you give everyone a bit of an easy ride. That's a lot worse. A lot worse.
Do you think you two, especially obviously it's BBC Radio Leicester, you're one of our own, aren't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lad from Glenfield, lad from Beaumont Leys. You both got Leicester accents, which is great.
Not so good.
I was careful with it. Right. But you're one of our own. Like what the football hooligans sing, don't they? You're one of our own. Do you think that probably gives you a little bit of a grace or what?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, with certain people, yes. Reading some of my DMs, no. with some people, but I definitely think it does.
Yeah, I'd agree, 100%. Like being the lad from Glenfield, and I think that's the thing, that the majority of people will think he's one of us, he's on our side.
Yeah,
and that's the. Like you said, by giving your opinion on things and like your honest opinion on it, and knowing that you're in their corner, which you are, you are. It's one of those things where, like we said, it's same down Morrison, same down the pub, same on radio. I think absolutely. It's like when you do the traffic news. I do the traffic news, and in my head, I know where all the roads are.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, it's really bad round A50, Northgate Street, Five Ways Junction, sticky round there, near Rowdett. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, don't go out, it's closed that way. It's the fact that you know that, and that's endearing, because you can't fake that. You can't put it on and say, right, today I'm going to be a Leicester lad, and I'm going to be really happy-go-lucky, but I'm a real miserable bastard in real life. Because you can't hide. You just can't do it. I mean, it's interesting what you're saying, because I've always been relatively quite lucky up until last year, and I can picture in my head, there was this article that went up, and it was about work, and it was the first time that someone said, God, people ain't saying very nice things about you on there. And I remember going on this article, and I was reading these comments, and there were things like, he puts a Leicester accent on, he plays up to this Leicester thing, he does that, he's not very good in the morning, he's well into himself. I'm reading all these comments in it, and it was the first time that I've ever had anything like that. And I was on holiday with my little girl. Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'm sat there in the monster-in-law's caravan, right, in Norfolk, right, and I'm on my own, and I'm scrolling through this thing, and it's like, it's like when you buy the seaside, right? There's no internet, there's no like 4G or like that, no Wi-Fi, is there? So I'm like, I'm reading through these things, and I was thinking, what are you doing this for? You're on the first day of your holiday, like, and I'm reading through these things, I'm thinking, that's a load of bollocks. That ain't right. Like, that's not. This ain't true. Like, this ain't right about talking about the station in a whole. But everyone's piling in on me here, and I get into that, and I'm thinking, like, a couple of hours pass, I'm like, I'm gonna have another look, see if there's any more comments. I'm on there. There's like 2 or 3 more. I'm thinking, who's going to wade in here? Who's going to stick up for me? Like, you feel like it's like you can be so alone, can't you? And people pile in. I want to text mate and say, mate, say something nice about me. He did this, but I think that's the first time I've ever had that, and it ruined my holiday, put me in a right bad mood. And that's the first time I've ever had, not abuse, but you said, Pipes, about the fact that you go in and it's all milk and honey and unicorns and rainbows, and everyone's had a great time, and there's a bit of you're patting everyone on the back, and you're out of the way, and I'm like, great, we all have a right giggle then.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, that was shit. What do you mean? Like, I didn't mean it to be. I didn't want it to be that way.
Well, this is the first few years. So, first few years doing BBC Radio Leicester. First of all, I think this is sort of my timeline. You go in and you think, oh my God, talking about football for a living. And I did this thing, and I think it's important to tell people that are listening. I did this thing called like a vision board years and years and years ago, and sort of forgot about it because I even probably thought it was a bit stupid. Leanne was like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing this thing. I read it in a book. What do you want to be doing in 5 years? What do you want to be doing in 10 years? And you sort of plan out what you want to do. And if you can write it down, it makes it more powerful and you can get to it. Anyway, we took this vision board out after about 8 years, and it was, I want to be well known on social media. It didn't say famous, it said well known on social media. It said, I want to work in media for the football. So all of a sudden, we're looking at this board, and she was like, oh my God, nearly everything you put, I want to own my own academy and help youngsters of Leicester do better and blah, blah, blah. So we're looking at this thing, and it's like, oh my God, this has all come true.
Manifestation.
It's manifestation. That's
It's gonna
exactly
happen
what it
thinking,
was.
like, yeah.
And I think it was when I read a book called The Secret. And I read The Secret, and that's when I thought, right, let me write all this down. But you're not supposed to just write it down. You're supposed to make it colourful. You're supposed to draw pictures. And I did all that. A lot of people are going to be listening to this thinking, not bad.
This guy's highlight, one of the highlight.
I did though. I made it really colourful, and then I put it in a drawer and forgot about it. And we got it out. We found it, and Leanne was caning me at the time. Leanne's my wife, by the way. She was caning me at the time, thinking, "What are you doing?" Because she's going work every day, and I'm sitting at home. Had a couple of coaching jobs, but weren't doing much. But I wrote all this down. We got it out after eight or so years. She's read it and she's gone, Jesus, nearly everything on this has come true. And that was the book, The Secret, that I read. But there's nowhere on that where you think, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to do what I want to do. And then there's going to be some geezers online that DMing me saying, you fucking... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you just don't think of it when you're trying to...
When you're doing your vision board. You know what you didn't put on there? No one to criticise me.
I know. But I should have put that.
Yeah.
I got visions of Liam. What's Pipes doing arts and crafts again? Yeah, he's got like, got some lollipop sticks out his Prince stick. Like, yeah, just, I don't know, he's dicking around with some sparklers and some Twizzlers and things and his pens again. Like, he's got to get out more, he's got to get out more.
But I did it. I did do that. And I think it's powerful to do that because obviously it sort of manifested itself in that way. Obviously, you got to work hard as well and do all that. But it's just difficult when you get that hate online.
Is there an element though? I always remember someone telling me, because it upset me. It really upset, and it's
It
like
will
so
do.
daft.
Of
like,
course
it's
it will.
so daft because I'm exactly like you, Pipes. Is the fact that I just think I just want to make people happy. I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to. I'm in a really privileged position. I'm really loving this, and I want to know why you're not loving it. Like what? And I always remember some bloke down the pub said, "Hey, do you know what you want? You want someone to write on a toilet wall." And if you're going you go down the pub or you go on a work site or whatever it is, and you're in there and you're having a gym or whatever it might be, and someone's put on there, Dayman is at Bell End or whatever it might be, you've made it. He's like, you've made it so much so that's not a bad thing. That is that someone, you're rent free in their head. Like, and you might take that really, really to heart about it all. But actually, really, them taking the time to write your name and to call you out and say horrible things about you, it's actually a really good thing. You've made it. The best thing someone can do is slag you off because you'll never please all the people all the time.
No.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
That's the truth.
You can't always please everyone.
No.
Someone's always going to have an opinion.
Yeah, especially with what we do as well. Like, with and football more than anything. You say, James, one of your own on football. It's tribal, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It is tribal. You know that more than anyone else, Pipes. Like, you must watch some games. I go down there and I love it because I've supported City all my life. Watch Pipes scored the last goal at Filbert Street, my grandpa up the Carlin. Do you know what I mean? Like all these things, like.
James was
off
there
his
that
shoulder.
day. So was Dan. He always says off my shoulder. He went off my shoulder. It was definitely off my left ear.
But now, like, you go down and I see it and I have a few beers and then you go down the pub afterwards and, like, you're talking to someone and you're thinking to yourself, have they watched the same game as me? Like, have they watched the same... Everyone's got an opinion, ain't they, on football? Like, it's one of those... It's one of them things.
It is. I mean, it is really difficult.
And you have to call it out. You have to say how you see
But
it. Like.
this is the transition that I've made, I think. And I don't think I've said this out there before, but the transition I've made. So at the start, you're buzzing to be on there and, oh my God, I can't wait to do it. And you don't know everything that the job encapsulates. And then all of a sudden you start getting the hate online. And my way of dealing with that, so if that had happened to me with the story you've just told, I went back to every single fucking person that wrote something to me. And that's my personality. No, but it was, I didn't go over the top swearing and fuck you. Yeah? I tried to reinforce my point against their point. And say, this is why I said what I said.
What, the first time you got that?
Yeah, but the first time I got it was for the first season and a half. So forever I was on my phone. It was started, in truth, between us four now and everyone listening, it started to cause big problems in my marriage. Because I'm getting in bed at night from either a home game or an away game. Away game was worse because I'm getting in bed really late. And I am making sure I respond to everyone that came at me and said, fucking shit at commentary. This was wrong. That was wrong. That opinion was fucking wrong. This was fucking shit. I went back to every single person. Everyone. I did not let anyone slip by. And that's my personality. But a lot of people can construe that in thinking, oh, he don't give a shit. He's just going hard on everyone. Clearly, I did give a shit. Because if I didn't give a shit, I wouldn't have spoke back to anyone. I'd have just ignored it. Because that's what you're told to do. You know, when I first started working with Strings, he was like, how many people have you blocked in the first 6 months of working this job? I said, no one. I said, I ain't blocking anyone. If anyone comes at me, I'm going to go back and try and tell them why I meant what I meant, why I said what I said. And he was like, no, mate, as soon as someone gives me shit, I just block them. I said, how many of you got blocked? He was like, 3,000. I was like, oh my God. It probably weren't 3,000. Strings, if you're listening, sorry, brother. It probably weren't 3,000, but he was like, I just block anyone that brings any negativity to me. And I always thought, how's anyone ever going to learn though? Or progress or get better if you do that? That was my thought process at that time. And then it moved on to me thinking, you know what? Next one talks shit to me, I'm going to block. And I blocked, and it felt good. I was like, because now they can't say it to me, or they can't touch me. I've got a like impenetrable. No, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So now, I swear to God, now I'm like, well, I didn't really agree with what my papa block. Block. And some of it is unjust, and I know that, but I'm better off living a life where I'm, positive. And some people will put really nice things. It goes against what I've said, but the way they say it up, which when we all grew up, is people talking with manners.
Yeah.
People talking with, Matt, listen, I really respect you in the position that you're in, but blah, blah, blah.
That's fair
Them
play.
people, I'll never block that person.
No.
I'm like, that's great because football is all about opinions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So they don't get blocked. And the worst one was when back in the early day, someone said something horrible. He said something fucking terrible. It was like, I'll shit on your kids. Or it was like, it was that level. It was like, made me think, what the hell?
He probably needed reporting to the police.
No, it was like...
I don't know about a block. I'm not sure a block's enough for that.
Yeah, but in touch with Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
He didn't say that, but it was something on a level where I was like, what? And then, so I went back in my early days and said what I was going to say. And he come back and he was like, I really respect you replying to me. And now me and him are mates on social media. No, honestly, you thought there was an expert coming to the story. There's not. It
Just
was
don't
like
ever invite him around the kids.
And there he was, like,
No, but we,
in a tent outside your house, like, waiting. Yeah.
no, we go for coffees and we talk about the football. And it started from a real bad place. So that's why if you block everyone that said anything slightly negative, it's not a good place to be. You've got to have that communication, I think, too. And you might be able to find a middle ground.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like, I ignore it, and then I want to go and like all the comments. And then if it's like, if a female's put it, something horrible, just want to put underneath it, Mum, ? Like, Dad, we've talked about this and put something funny, thanks for your continued support, and you can't, and I think maybe that's a position that it's only happened very few times, but it's happened for a first time. I'm 38 now, and I'm like, why can't we all be friends? Why can't we all get on with each other?
There's people out there that just want to break other people down and want them to feel how they're feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
Because really, how many times have you watched something or heard someone say something and you thought, I'm going to message them and tell them how much of a knobhead they are, how much I don't like them.
Yeah.
Never.
No, you don't
Never.
do you?
It's normally pipes,
Never.
He blocked me the other day.
There's that element as well, isn't there? Like, you can't wrestle with a pig as well, or whatever they say. Like, you don't argue with someone that's stupid because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with it. Like,
The pigeons one.
yeah.
The pigeons one. I said it to you the other day, didn't I? It was arguing with idiots is like playing chess with pigeon. A pigeon. Because
Yeah.
he'll still
I love that comment.
shit on the board, knock all the pieces over, and strut around like he's won.
That's it.
Ain't that
the
great?
truth, yeah.
Ain't that great? Say it
I've
again.
not heard that one.
Clearly into the microphone so we can all hear
Oh,
it
was I
properly.
backing off?
Hey, we need the levels
bit,
high on
yeah.
this one.
Arguing with idiots is like playing a game of chess with a pigeon. He'll still shit on the board and knock all the pieces over and strut around like he's won.
Boom.
Boom, there you go.
You've nailed that, brother.
Do you know what? It needs to be on like, you know, you go into people's kitchen, it's like, live, laugh, love. You need one of them with pigeon shit on. That's what it needs to be. That's good. Yeah, the chessboard. That's what it needs to be.
You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to listen to the BBC Breakfast Show all next week. If he drops that, you've got a lawsuit, brother.
Trademark.
Hey, it's not mine.
Change your shit word. Mate.
This is the thing now. To be with you boys, it's like I'm going to get up at 4 o'clock and tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Got to remember where I am again in front of a microphone.
Oh,
Got to
yeah.
be a good lad again. It's like, oh, I've had a great night last night. Team of parts with the boys. Like, yeah, brilliant. Get on air. Like, oh yeah, but hey, you got to be a good lad though, please. Like, you know, remember where you are.
No swearing, brother.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I've got just out of interest. You know, speaking earlier, and you were saying about, you know, how lucky you feel to be in the role, and you obviously worked your way onto the biggest show on the radio at Leicester. What's your goals past that? Have you got anything else that you want to kick on and do, or are you just cool with that? Or
I think it's been an interesting year. It's been a really good year. Like the last year or so, there's been a lot that's happened. Like, you know, personally, professionally, things are good. Things are really good, and people have started saying, "Oh, right, what next?" And do you want to go and do Radio 2? Do you want to go and do final? You know, where do you want to go next? And you know what? And I've had this chat with my bosses as well. There's been like, "Oh, hey, do you fancy going and doing such and such, whatever it could be?" I'm so happy in Leicester. I'm so happy, and I feel like I'm letting myself down because I've got, you know, becoming a dad, got a little 3-year-old girl. I want her to be ambitious. I want her, I want her to be ambitious. I want her to go and be a prime minister or do whatever she wants to do. Like, I want to have that ambition, but I feel like I'm shying away from it because it's not that I haven't got ambition, but I'm just really happy. I'm really happy, and I think the other thing as well is, I guess that if you set out to be footballer, you know, there's always going to be that club that you can strive to go and play for. I never thought I'd be the breakfast presenter on Radio Leicester. Oh, I never dreamt. If you'd have said 10 years, if you said 5 years ago, oh, yes, what? You're going to go and do the breakfast show. I've only worked there full time 5 years as it is. And I've done afternoons, I've done weekends, I've done everything else in between. And to do what I'm doing now, a genuine, and it's not because the boss is listening, right, like that. Checking
They
up
won't
on
be
that,
listening to this.
it is that I'm happy. I love Leicester. I love living in Glenfield. I love where I am. I just don't have any. I'm just not settled. I'm just happy, and I do feel like, you know, this imposter syndrome. One day the boss will come in and cuss you, because that's what happens in our industry.
Yeah.
Like, you know, hey, you're off. You're going to go and do this, whatever it could be. Well, I know. I do have that feeling where it's like someone will come in and say, "Look, you've blagged this now for a few years, eh? This is 6-7 years. You've blagged this for now."
Do you really feel like that?
Yeah. Daily, I would say.
That is how I felt daily as a footballer, mate. Honestly,
Really?
and as a broadcaster, exactly the same. And what would be really interesting is, we've had a psychologist on, haven't we? But it would be really interesting, because I don't know what kind of personality that is, because I think we're kind, we're quite outgoing at times. But, you know, to really understand that, because I've never spoke to anyone about it. You know, like, you're quite talented, you're skilled at what you do, because it's easier from someone on the outside looking in. I turn the radio on in the morning, mate, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, but because you're on. So you turn the radio on because you're on, and you're hearing someone like Dayman, and they're making your morning a little bit better. Especially if you've had a shit morning, and then you hear AD fucking, yeah, morning everyone, and it's like kind of crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're thinking that, and then you're thinking, from what you've just said now, that's like, oh God, you know, why does he feel like that? And I'm sure people must have looked at me playing football and think, wow, really talented player. He's doing this, he's doing that, or they really like my coverage of the games, and yet in ourselves, because people say to me, possibly do 5 Live games, maybe not the big games, or you could do Talk Sport. But I'm like, that's never going to happen.
I think there's a lot of people out there that have imposter syndrome.
That's
in
it.
different, in
90%.
in a lot of walks of life.
Yeah.
There'll be more people like that than people that are walking around thinking they're king shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And actually, though, we know a few that are like that have walked around. Sorry, I'm away from that. Have walked around saying stuff that they're this, they're that, blatantly lying, and now gone on to be doing great things.
But they must have been able to act really well.
But that's
I
what I
think
mean.
I act really well at times.
But is that not a good thing though as well? Like, because
I think that shows courage.
That if you turn up, I know that I'd turn up and tomorrow it might all be over. Like with the football commentary, the coverage, or whatever it could be. Turn up, be exactly how you want to do it, and like don't put an act on, no facade or anything like that. Do how you want to do it and live that way. It's just being authentic, isn't it? It's being not real. It's being real.
Yeah.
So your
And I think-
aspiration is just to stay current and keep in your job for as long as.
I love doing it. I love getting up. I love going into work. I love my team.
We can
I
tell
love the
you
show.
do from how you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I love what I do, and I think that's one of the big important points is if you have a passion for what you're doing, that goes a long way.
Is there an element as well? Because you said some really kind things as well, and I'm like, I never know how to take. I never know how to take compliment. I don't know if that's because my wife never gives me any or what, but I never know how to take that. And I think there was Radio 2 in the Part 1 the last September. We done loads.
We were
of work
there. We were there, mate.
It was great, wasn't it? It was brilliant. And all day long you're reporting on it and you're interviewing all these people.
Oh,
and
you
you're
was
like,
working it?
yeah. And it was magic. We had this big thing with where we had to get this post box topper from the size of knitting back
For Kylie Minogue. I know it all,
when
bro.
I met Kylie, when I met her, gave her this thing, and it was like Mission Impossible, and ended up on Radio 2 loads of times. And all the bosses were like, "Oh, gonna lose you. You're gonna lose you to Radio 2." And I'm like, exactly like you. I'm like, nah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And then a few people like, you'd be interested in making a step up, or I'm like, no. And it's not because I'm scared or
You're content.
yeah, I'm happy. I'm so happy. Like, why rock that boat of happiness? Like, probably at 38, the happiest I've ever been. And there is that imposter syndrome, and you might think to yourself, you don't want to do that because you don't think he's good enough. I know that I could just go in there and be myself, and hopefully that would be enough and would be all right. It's just about finding that level of just being happy, happy. Like,
That's important, isn't it? It's really so
100.
Yeah, you
So
don't always have
important.
to have their aspirations for the next thing.
No.
Like I'm saying, you want to maintain what you've got.
yeah.
Which is still admirable. And
If there was a chance, if something come up and said, right, go on, Aid, go and do it. I really
it a
think
go.
you should do that. Go and do it. I'd always say yeah, and I think that's how I've got to where I am
Yeah.
now by saying.
Where
yeah,
would you have to
right,
go?
You said earlier,
Radio
you
2.
you don't have an opportunity.
Well, there's a number of places, isn't there?
Yeah,
Radio
I think-
1, Radio 2,
yeah.
anything national.
No, I'm just saying. Would you,
Manchester, London, I think
So,
there's
yeah.
some to so.
so that's what I mean. So you travel, and you're losing seeing your daughter a bit more as well.
Yeah,
Because you probably. What time do you get home? And
12 o'clock.
Yeah,
I'm
so
normally
then-
done 12.
Mate,
half
he's
12.
got a great job. He's got to get up early, but
He's not.
get so much
He's
more
not.
when he's
Have
doing
a
it.
Go lunch in.
Have sandwich. Go bed. The dog
right,
knows
yeah.
now. The dog looks at me, comes in, gets his little toy in his mouth, and he starts wagging his tail. And now he knows that if we're not in bed by 12:30, 1 o'clock, having a snuggle and having a little sleep, he starts barking, starts losing his shit. Now. It's really every day have a little nap.
Ralph.
Ralph,
his name
Ralph,
is.
he
The
now
ginger
knows.
cockapoo.
The naughty ginger cockapoo.
Naughty ginger cockapoo.
Do you know, this is the thing at the weekends now, because you don't get a kip because the wife's there, and Eden's running around the house in cats. Ralph's there still, the house might as well be on fire, and he's sat in the middle of the living room, wagging his tail, barking his bollocks off, because he thinks it's bedtime. He thinks he's like, Ralph, shut up. We've just told everyone they've had a busy day doing shopping and ironing and washing and all these things. Don't let it slip.
And he's
Go
got the
sleep
arse,
every
wants to go
day.
sleep.
One of the biggest skills that you've got, whether we're in the pub, whether we're down the park, or whether you're on radio, is for me is that I didn't do any prep really for this podcast because you're a conversationalist. you're a talker. They're the people that I get on with the best, really. And I know James does, and I know Dan does. There's 3 other things I wanted to mention before we let you get back to your family, mate. The first one is your big, bold, beautiful head.
Oh, yeah.
Because James has got a bald head and he shows it off proudly. So do you, and I don't. Because I've got a bald head, but I always hide it under a cap, a hat, whatever it is. I always hide it under. Was that a difficult transition for you? This is more of a personal question. Sorry for everyone listening. But this is more of a personal question because I want to get the most insight I can, because when I was 40, I said, I'm going to stop wearing a cap. I promised my wife, the kids, I'm going to stop wearing a cap. I'm going to wear the boldness proud. I still can't fucking do it. And when people do it like you and James, Dan's not got that fucking problem. He's got enough hair for all of us.
He's just hiding it.
I'm just going to leave you boldies to it.
That's his fringe. That's just his fringe.
Leave you boldies to it.
When that wind blows,
He's going for a wee. He's leaving his boldies to it. This is a good point to leave.
He's thinking his wig slipped. He's got to stick it back on.
No, to me, it's an important question because I do struggle with it massively. Hide it. And the first time people see me without a cap on, they're like, what the fuck? They are. Everyone's like, what is that reaction? How was it for you? And what age was it? What age was it when you started sort of shaving your whole head off?
So I remember, I don't know about you, James, but I had loads of hair. I had loads of hair growing up. So I remember there's a picture that I've seen of, I used to play for Kirby Monksley football, and I used to have like a David Beckham headband with the Brill cream.
I've seen that picture.
Long.
I've seen that picture.
I used to borrow my sister's straighteners and like straighten the back of it. And I'd got
so hair was really important to you. Yeah,
I would spend more time doing my hair than anything else on a night out. I'd got loads of it. I got loads on it. I got I got loads of it. It was never going to fall out. And then I'll remember going to my barber's, and I always remember. It's like the Emperor's New Clothes, isn't it, I think? Because clearly, looking back at pictures now, it would go in. It would fall in out.
What, at the front or at the
front,
back?
like a devil's peak or whatever they call it. And I remember going into the barbers, and I'd go in like once a month, and clearly I didn't need to go in once a month anymore. And 12 quid for him, wasn't it? I'd go in and buy a pot of that wax and stuff like that. What it was like Mr. Sheen on my head, really, just shining it up a little bit. And I was saying to him, like, you know when it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, you'll tell me, won't you? You'll tell me when it's like a completely pointless job. And he says, yeah, I'll tell you. And I look back at it now, and it had long gone. And I was still going in there. So I'd say mid-20s, probably mid-20s. But I look back on pictures now, and it was gone. But
was you fearful then?
No, not really. No,
you just whipped it off.
Just my dad's bald, he ain't got no hair. It's quite interesting to see my little brother now. He's like, early 30s still. He's going and he don't like it. He don't like it.
Better not listen to this podcast,
like, I'll pass you, right? It's not time yet, kid. Nearly. And then getting out of the pool at Centre Parks, I was like, hey up, what's that? He had some pictures done like with his family, and I was like, oh mate, is this for one of them like clinics in Turkey? Is this like your before photos? Like you bastard, like that. But I don't think, yeah. I look back on it and I'm almost embarrassed because I should have whipped it off sooner. But
was it not a big loss for you? Because how much you said that you loved your hair and you had loads of it and you used to style it. Was it that?
No, not
didn't
really.
Feel like a big loss?
Not really. It never felt like a big loss. But I think looking back, like I said, I'd got this headband. I thought it was David Beckham, straightening it, slapping loads of wax and
then you turned into The Rock.
And then it's like this big old bald head. Now I could do it in the shower in about 30 seconds with a
I do.
job's good, isn't it? It's dead easy, but I never. It's just like that.
I don't get it.
It's never bothered me.
You know what it is for me? The biggest mistake I made is start to. When you said was about to start losing it.
Yeah.
And people were saying, "Oh, you're going a bit thin at the front and bold at the back." I put a cap on, and the cap became one of my other mates says to me, Hutchins, this guy says to me, he goes, that has become your like soldier tin helmet. So you've put a cap on, to hide the fact that you're going bald, and you didn't just let it happen like you guys clearly did. And now that has become my fucking, protection.
Well, you're going to need that now down at the city if you say something wrong.
Think of the blocking you're going to have to do like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Take your cap off, you bald fucker. I think they all know I'm bald as fuck.
Give it to the keyboard warrior. You're in.
I know, you just gave
my
them
God.
ammunition.
Oh my God.
Take that hat off.
Right.
Shut up.
Let's move on quickly. The second thing I wanted to bring up was, because it was massive for me at the time, I think it was a similar time that the book came out, you started an initiative on BBC Radio Leicester called Be a Mate. It was so powerful at the time, and I was thinking, did that start for someone that was close to you, or personal experience, or you just thought that everyone at that time, especially men, because we've done a number of interviews recently where, the male suicide rates are a lot higher. The way that guys don't talk to each other, like we've tried to do tonight, it is really difficult. What was it that made you
I really like the sound.
get behind that?
It must have been, what, 4 or 5 years back then, would it be?
About 4 years ago.
It must have been.
You had the beer mats in the pubs.
Yeah. Everard's did like 50,000
It was powerful,
beer
mate.
mats. Yeah, they did put. Everard's were brilliant about it, actually. And they put all these beer mats out. They put all these posters up. They with an action line.
It was big.
It was big.
Really big.
It was really big. I think like you, there was this conversation of blokes not talking, of just blokes not talking, and I don't want to say that was like when it all kicked off, but it feels like blokes just have always shut up, put up with it, cracked on, that's it, and it felt like there was a bit of a, I don't know, like there was a bit of a light that actually. It was that time it's okay not to be okay, when that was first people started saying that for the first time. And I remember thinking to myself, all these blokes are killing themselves. And there was a spate in Leicester of loads of lads killing themselves, and they're all the same age as me. And I've struggled with me like a few times. It's never got as bad as that, but leaving the family business to go into broadcasting, that caused loads of shit with my family. We didn't talk about that because I'd tried something else, and I'd left the family business. I'd kind of abandoned them almost, it felt like. And there was lots of spells and periods that I went through. I just felt really down, just felt really low. Yeah. And I always felt lucky that I could go and talk to my mates. I knew that I would be able to talk to them, and they'd always got my back. And I've had the same group of mates I've had since primary school. And I was like, there's these other blokes that ain't got that. And it was really interesting, because there was an element of people that you have to be really careful when you set something like that up, because you want to help as many people as you obviously can, but then there are people that are constantly getting in touch, and you've got people that are saying, look, I need to speak to you now, so I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah,
and I was thinking,
I know.
Oh, wow, I don't want that. And I'll be on the phone in the early hours of the morning, or to people I've never met before. And it was the power of men's mental health and just trying to shine a light on it. It was something, and I you know what, I look back and I don't know perhaps why I've not really gone more on it, and I feel a bit embarrassed about that, because we created a real movement, and
huge.
It was a big thing, a really big thing. But I think COVID happened when it would have probably been more important. I think it'd have been more important with people.
That came out. I think COVID came after. But the reason why I brought it up was because of the positives, because it got a lot more people talking, mate.
Yeah.
And it got, the beer mats came out. Yeah. And generally, when you meet your mates, especially blokes, you meet them at a pub.
Yeah.
You meet them in a pub, you're sitting there, and everyone, the first thing we always do when we meet in a pub is, how are you, big man? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. And that is the go-to answer normally between blokes, and they're not fine.
No.
And then they look down and they see a beer mat that says, be a mate, is everything okay? And I think it was such a powerful movement, what you started, mate, at that point.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say credit to you for that.
But I feel a bit of a, not a fraudster, but I should have carried it on. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I did. I set up this thing that was brilliant. It helped loads of blokes out, and it got loads of people talking. And even now, there's still some of these posters up in some of the pubs, clearly, where they don't do the toilets or anything like that. Not really. If you want them posters up, good on you. And it would be nice. Perhaps it's something we can do. You know, with your
Mate, listen. Well, this is why I brought it up, because myself, Dan, and James, attached to this podcast is something called, off the back of the book, but also through what James has been through and what Dan's been through, because we've all, at different times in our life, we've all shared similar experiences to what the book spoke on. We've started a foundation called the Reboot Foundation. And the reason it's called Reboot is because once I got to that point in my life, to where I am now, I think I had to reboot the whole system. And, you know, suicide, drugs, addiction, alcohol, whatever it was, to get from that point to the point where I am now at life in BBC Radio Leicester, the FSD Academy, my friends, my family, everything's come back. To get to that point, I had to reboot. I rebooted the system, and I had massive help from Leanne, my wife, rehab, friends, family, the people that are sitting in this room. It's called the Reboot Foundation. It started. We got our first pot of funding from the Leicestershire County Council. And we're at that point now. The last episode was talking about how do we best utilise not just those funds, but future funds, and what is the best thing that we can put in place to help individuals that are in a place like Dan's been at times in his life, I've been, and James has been, and clearly someone like you has been, where you said you didn't get so low.
No.
But you could have probably done with something at some point to point you in the right direction. We're talking about all things at the minute, and we'd love if you would. And I'm not putting you on the spot in front of everyone that's listening.
No pressure. Yeah.
You don't have to become a founding member or a director, but it'd be great.
You got any beer mats? Cross out beer mat, reboot on. Yeah, got any left over?
But it would be brilliant to have you as an earpiece, to have you as a compadre.
Yeah,
really.
I'll be honoured.
To be a part of it, of growing it out. We've clearly got the space up at Mawaka where we've all been involved with the FSD Academy to try and roll that out and to try and help individuals. That's sort of where we're at.
I would love to be. I think with the Beer Mate campaign, and like I say, genuinely, just talking about it now, you think of all the people that it helped, you think of what it did, and this massive county one. People still talk about it now, and that's like we say, going back 5 years. With what you're doing, I do feel I probably have got regret that we didn't carry it on, that we didn't keep going with it, because you need to shine. Blokes need to talk. We need to talk more. We need to talk more. And my mates, whether it's marriage problems, whether it could be debt, it could be job problem, whatever it could be. I've got this. I'm lucky enough to have this framework where someone feels like they could rely, could get in touch with, go for
yeah.
Like that. But not everyone's got that. This is probably the calling that I need to say, righto, we can, with everything you've done for men's mental health, putting it in towards Reboot now. Yeah, would be great. I'll be on it, and it's something I'm really passionate about as well. So, anything I could be a part, I would love that. I'd love that.
Mate,
I'd love that.
Be absolutely outstanding.
Good addition to the team.
Super addition to the team.
Definitely.
Listen,
someone that radiates.
Yeah,
because as soon as we'd spoke before, but just coming into the room with you in there, you just radiate.
No, mate.
It's that smile.
It brings you up.
It's that smile, and do you know what? It's that smile, and do you know what else makes him so endearing? It's that bald head. I'm getting mine out right now, live on this set. No, I ain't going that far.
Full of shit. Baby steps.
Listen, the third thing I wanted to say is it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much, mate, for agreeing to do it.
I can't tell you how chuffed I am that you asked me. Like, really, genuinely, I'm so chuffed.
The last thing I wanted to ask, this was one of my first questions that I sort of bullet pointed down, is what do you think of the setup? Because you are a professional broadcaster, mate.
Yeah, let's not get
I'm just a summariser. I just turn up and just everyone has it set up, but I even countersunk all the wires into the desk, and we've tried to make it as professional.
some, what, you got some
We all
tools
did
out?
it. We all did
This
it.
is like
Yeah.
pipes on the tools on the old DeVault. I can't even. Do you know?
You're
Genuinely,
quite handy, actually, aren't you?
I ain't
In
bad.
and around the
I ain't
academy.
bad.
He's
getting there.
I've
He's got
learned.
there,
I've
yeah.
learned a lot off Dan. He's in the trade. He's in the
He
trade. Dan.
started there. He's slowly creeping.
Do you know?
He's getting good.
The other day, right? So we got to work, and it was on a Friday morning, and it's you get there, it's 4:45. The cleaner's outside, and you think that's a bad start. This is not what you want to be seeing as you're going over Jubilee Square. The cleaner is outside, and it looks like the gates are still locked. This is bad news.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, we got locked out, so all the keypads had failed on the doors. So what do we do now? Where? What? We've got a breakfast show to do in an hour, and you cannot get in the building. We ended up going to Nottingham, so we had to get down the A46. We did the breakfast show from BBC Nottingham.
Jumped in the car.
We should have come down here.
Oh, that is high praise
Do
indeed.
you
Come
know,
on.
genuinely, do you know next time, if it ever happens
Just
again,
ring Pipes.
I'm going to ring Pipes. I mean, whoever he's have his phone on or whatever, you know, like, but I'm well impressed.
Oh, he's
Well,
answered
cheers,
that
mate.
the best he
I
could have
am
answered
well
it.
impressed.
Cheers, mate.
When I came round, I thought I don't know, like, you know, I'd be like,
Oh, here we go,
I
here
was
we
like,
go.
here we go. Pipes has got like a little bit of a, you know, a clip with a microphone on, a bit of like string hanging in it. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Sonny's still ragging your ankles off.
yeah, exactly. He's got his Rimmel lipstick out still, like, you know, like. This is honestly, this is magic. This
mate.
is top quality.
That's so kind to say. Listen, Ada, we've had some magical guests on, and I wouldn't ever say that one's better than the other, but mate, you've been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you doing it. I know Dan and James do as well.
Definitely.
It's such a pleasure having you on, mate. And this is one of them episodes. We said this to Jersey Bud the other week. This is one of them episodes where I feel there's a lot more to say. There is, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you're such a conversationalist, like I say, that we can sort of talk the shit for hours and hours and hours. And I think it will help a lot of people. You know, some of the stuff that we've spoke on tonight will be really important for people to listen to. You're a diamond,
Even
mate.
the story about you two meeting, we've not touched on that. And that would have been perfect.
That's
That's
for
another time.
That's for series 2.
Series 2, yeah, I was going to launch into that then. All I'll tell you then, right, for Series 2 is that Pipes did something on that night. So I've been in my early 20s. I've got to be going back. You working in the academy.
Oh, is that long ago?
Yeah, so Naomi, my wife now, she was a physio at the academy as well.
Naomi was a physio for one of my teams.
Yeah.
So Naomi physioed for Harvey Barnes, Hamza Chowdhury, Ben Chilwell. She was a physio for those boys.
The 14s.
Yeah.
See, I didn't. You know what? When I didn't really realise that until Pipes said, "You should see that. I'm trying to do the less 10k at the minute. You should see her just trying to get to look at my dodgy calf. No chance. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing.
That's
like,
what
it's like,
wives are like,
yeah,
mate.
it's like, oh yeah, you'd be like, put some ice on it. Like, you know, like just get nothing but shade thrown at me. But I mean, all right, we'll save him for the next one. But you did something that night that my dad has still got. And it's pride of place. He's just had all his kitchen done with mum and dad. Just had the kitchen done.
That's
and
a
he's still got it.
wonderful
He's still got it.
cliffhanger to get someone to tune in to the next one.
Brilliant.
Hey there, top man.
Top man,
Beautiful,
hey there.
I can't
beautiful
thank
human
you,
being.
I can't thank you.
Thank you,
Seriously,
brother.
thanks
Cheers,
for having
mate.
me.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Top man.
Take care.